Alright, I wanna ask you a question. Are infinite launch passes still worth buying today? And before you shoot me down, I wanna talk about what these offer and where we can get the same benefits, potentially for free. My own answer to this question would have been a resounding yes in the past, but today I'm not so sure anymore. Don't get me wrong though, I'm not saying they've become useless throughout the years, but if I were a new player, I would think twice before I would spend 1000 gems or about 370 gold on them. Allow me to explain. Launch passes come in two forms, the infinite version and a 2-week version. And I think it's safe to say that spending 150 gems on a 2-week version will never be worth it. Especially when you can buy the same 2-week pass for 4 or 5 Black Lion statuettes as well. There is a bit of an issue when we're talking about the infinite version though, because we can't lump them all into the same category. The older passes will let you access all crafting stations, a trading post, bank and vendors relatively close to each other. But at some point, ArenaNet decided to introduce launches with extra benefits. The Mistlock Sanctuary basically doubles as the Fractal Lobby, giving you access to all of the respective vendors without having to load into the actual lobby through Lion's Arch. And you can even start fractals from this location. There's also a few extra gimmicks, such as a weightlessness and a dash that lets you get from place to place faster. And a fun puzzle that forces you to keep a ball up in the air. But to me personally, both of these aren't the main selling point of this specific launch. And the same goes for the Armistice Bastion, which is the premier WvW launch, with its access to the appropriate vendors, the WvW map instead of your regular world map, and even your world's chat. And maybe equally as important, practice golems that you can use to test your skills and your build on. If you're new to WvW or a new player in general, it's important to know that not all skills are balanced in the same way in PvE, WvW and the arenas. So having a dedicated place to test them is always nice. This launch also comes with a few extra gimmicks. There is a jumping puzzle with a vendor at the end that will allow you to buy the Catmander tag, so if you're like me and you keep failing the regular jumping puzzle in the Borderlands, this is basically the Walk of Shame version. There is even an arena where you can duel your friends or maybe former friends once you're done in there. Both of these launches come with a disadvantage for some players, although it's an oddly specific one and might not apply to most of you. If you spend time stacking the offensive and defensive Jade buff protocols in End of Dragons, both of them will get removed upon entering either of these. Before I get to why I might not necessarily buy either anymore, especially as a new player, I want to mention one more pass. The downside of this one is that it is not available to most of us, and some of you might not even have heard of it. There is a PvP launch called Champion's Rest, which cannot be obtained through the Gemstore at all. Instead, you can get a 2-week version for winning a monthly automated tournament, or you can get a permanent version by winning an ArenaNet sponsored community PvP event. But again, I doubt a lot of people will have this pass. And all of the passes I mentioned of course combine their respective benefits with having the same crafting stations, vendors, trading post, bank and a mystic forge, all placed conveniently near each other. And for a while, nothing in the game came even close to this in terms of convenience. But during the Icebrood saga, we got access to Eye of the North, which has all of these vendors and stations except for a mystic forge, which you can make a portable version of for about 80 gold by the way. At that point in time, you were probably still better off buying one of the infinite passes though, because enabling all of the vendors in Eye of the North is a rather pricey ordeal. The one thing this location has over any premium launch is the access to the IBS Strikes and Dragonstorm. When End of Dragons released, we got access to Arborstone, which didn't require us to mortgage our home instance to get access to all vendors, trading posts and a bank. And it even came with its own Mystic Forge. ArenaNet chose to place all crafting stations on the literal opposite side, not only horizontally but also vertically, of the main hall, away from the trading post, bank and Mystic Forge. This made Arborstone rather inconvenient to use as your main hub. Although you needed to go here if you wanted to try any of the new End of Dragon strikes, and you would get rewarded with a rested XP bonus for logging out here. So if you wanted to benefit from the rested bonus, you would more often than not have to deal with an extra loading screen if you considered one of the other launches as your main base of operations. And now, this summer, we got access to the Wizard's Tower with the launch of Secrets of the Obscure. where all crafting stations, vendors and so on are conveniently placed near each other, and you get the same rested XP bonus as in Arborstone. And if you want to do either of the no strikes, you also have no choice but to go here. And the best thing is that the teleportation scroll to the tower is free and only requires completing a few achievements. I did hear from people that they are suffering from performance issues here, which for me luckily hasn't been the case. But if you consider purchasing a premium launch for its access to conveniently placed crafting stations and vendors, I would argue this one has the others beat on the account of being completely free. I am well aware that the gems or gold argument becomes moot at some point. Once you have legendary gear, you tend to accumulate gold that you can spend on anything you like. But I want to kindly remind you that less than 3% of all of the accounts on GW2 efficiency have all legendary armors completed. The real number of players with this achievement is likely to be far lower. So I want to ask you again, is it really worth spending 1000 gems or the equivalent in gold on a premium launch pass? And would you do it if you were a new player? Or would you rather spend it on things like material storage, or bank space, or maybe bag slots, build templates, or equipment templates, or any of the other quality of life upgrades for your account or character? I bought all my passes when they came out. Talk about being ArenaNet's target audience. Back in the day, I had much less time to play, but I had more expendable income. Today, my situation is vastly different, and if I were to start over from scratch, I think I would be just fine using the Wizard's Tower as my main base of operations and deal with the extra loading screen to teleport to the Fractal Lobby, Obsidian Sanctum, or even the PvP lobby. But that's just my situation. Maybe yours is different. So let me know in the comments whether you want to, or you would still buy the infinite launch passes if you were starting today. And on your way down there, I'd very much appreciate it if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel. We're getting so close to 5000 subscribers, which is about 4997 more than I ever expected.